Hey, welcome everybody. So happy to have you all here today on this wonderful Wednesday. Looking forward to a great session today we'll jump into as well. My name is Sean Albertson. I'm the founder of the CX on the Rocks Collective. And if you're not familiar with us, we are a community, free community to join. And we have great events like this one. We have events almost every week where we really help those that are helping support customers, whether it's customer experience, customer service, customer success, marketing, IT, digital analytics. I mean, anybody who is focused in their work as supporting customers, we're here to help you. Because let's face it a little bit. Things are kind of rough right now. Things are a little bit on the rocks in CX because it's changing so much because of AI and all the expectations are really going through the roof from customers. And we've got to do this. We've got to stay founded on, build a foundation on what the right things are in the day and age. But the only way to do that is through community. So I welcome you to join us. Go to cxontherocks.com to join. Like I said, it's free to join. We'd love to have you. Why don't you throw into the chat, where are you coming from today? Because I definitely see definitely some new names out there and folks. And yeah, I'd love to hear where you're coming from. So Orlando, all right, very good. Portland, all right. We got both coasts. Sarasota, Florida as well. All right, we got Denver. Great to have you. Salt Lake City. All right, we're covered. We're everywhere. We're global as well. So nice, nice, nice. All right. Well, I am so excited today. Um, we're lucky to have at the CX on the Rocks Collective several really important partners. One of which is we're going to work with today that's going to share some great information on what they're doing at their organization because listening and signals within customer experience is so important. We have to understand what these customers are experiencing so we know where to improve. But surveys are at all-time low on response rates. It's challenging to get and understand the signals when it's so much more important now than ever before. And that's where Bespoke CSI, a great partner of ours, is going to share some awesome stuff today. I'm so looking forward to it. I know you are as well. You're gonna really get a lot out of this session. So I'd like to introduce Jason Tenpao, CEO of Bespoke CSI. Take it away.
Good morning, everyone, depending on what part of the country you're in. Good morning, good afternoon. Today, we're going to be talking about how to close the confidence gap with your VoC program. Now, you're probably wondering, what's the confidence gap and why does it matter? So I'm going to start by just talking through a little bit about the confidence gap and what it means. The goal of every VoC program is, bar none, to increase confidence. Now, there's different types of confidence that are being created through a VoC program. There's confidence from an employee perspective. There's also confidence from a customer perspective. So let's break this down a little bit and talk a little bit more deeply about each of these. Employees need confidence to act. And that's what the data from the VoC program provides them, is that confidence to take action, to improve the customer's experience. Customers are looking for the brand to take these actions in order to determine whether or not they are ready to take that next step to deepen that customer relationship. And so you can see it coming into clearer focus that increasing confidence is actually the primary goal of a VoC program. So the question I have for you today is whether or not confidence in your VoC program is fading. How do you know if it's fading? Well, let's talk about that for a minute. If you're struggling to capture enough customer feedback or to uncover actionable insights, or even worse, to get support for your recommended actions, the odds are confidence in your VoC program is fading. Now, the question is, what do we do about this? In order to save confidence, most companies just take that knee-jerk reaction and say, listen, I need more responses to my VoC surveys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the number of questions. I'm going to go from 10 to 5. And I've been in many conversations where I'm talking to folks and they're saying, we need to increase our response rate. So let's drop the number of questions and let's see what happens. Inevitably, what happens is you just limit your customer knowledge further. Think about it this way. You have a 10-question survey. You ask 100 people, right? You say, okay, I'm going to reduce the number of that survey to 5 questions. And I may get an additional 10 people to respond. What's better? Having 100 people with 10 questions to allow you to extract knowledge from, or 120 people and you only have 5 questions from which to extract knowledge from? I think it's about a net equal. So even when you think you're taking action to improve your program, to get your program back on track, that may actually not be the case. So when you started your VoC program, confidence was high. You invested time, you built your teams, and you bought a bunch of tools. However, only a small percentage of recommended actions are being implemented. And as a result, confidence is starting to fade. So the question we all have is, what can we do about this? We know that customer emotions drive decisions and actions. We know that for a fact. That's why we went ahead and invested in a VoC program in the first place. Knowing how customers feel, this is where our challenge is. We need that emotional information about customers. And if we have that emotional information, we have a key piece of the pie to understand how to impact customers' buying behavior, their recommendation behavior, and a whole host of other things that we need for the brand to be successful. So the question is, what are we missing from our VoC program? Well, we know a little bit about our customers that are dissatisfied. We know a little bit about the customers that are highly satisfied. What we're actually missing is that silent majority. Now, the question becomes, what do we do about it? Well, what we've been doing for the most part is creating cooler, better, more interesting dashboards. But all that is actually doing is distracting us from the fact we don't have enough of the right data. And so when that fails, we decide that we're going to come up with cooler metrics. We're going to measure CSAT. No, let's look at the lifetime value. Let's measure loyalty. Let's look at NPS. Oh, we want the journeys to be effortless. Let's look at efforts. Oh, we want our campaigns to be highly engagement. Let's see how long they spend on a page. Let's look at time on site, because the longer they spend on our site, the better and more connected to the brand they will be. While these are cool in theory, you're still missing the main issue. You need to increase your understanding of the silent majority. So, how do you do that? This is where Bespoke CSI, customer signal intelligence, comes in. We can help you close that gap and help you better understand that silent majority. We do this by capturing customer signals to supplement your feedback. You may be asking, what are customer signals? Customer signals are these little nuances about the customer's emotions that are available with every single interaction. However, for the most part, they're hidden. They're hidden in your calls, in your emails, in your chat, and social. And what we do is we take every one of those interactions, we analyze the interaction, we extract the emotions, and we analyze the trends to help you get better data around how you're impacting your customers at an emotional level. So what do you get after all of this? What you get is actually a rating. A rating for every single interaction around the emotional impact of that interaction on the customer. And what that allows you to do is now have a much bigger data set from which to extract customer knowledge from. More feedback, better insights, new actions. And that's the benefit of this approach. So enough of me talking. Let's take a look at this in action, because we want to see how this can help you improve your confidence. I'm going to turn it over to one of our product team members, Miko, and he's going to walk you through a demonstration of how we can take a phone call and extract the emotional experience and evaluate that interaction and extract insights from it to help you improve your customer knowledge, and then use that knowledge to enhance your customer experience. Miko, take it away.
Thanks, Jason. Hey, everyone. I'm Miko, one of the product owners and developers at Bespoke. Nice to digitally meet everyone today. And I'm going to share screen. So give me one moment, as well as the sound. And what we're about to play is just a simple call center conversation from one of our archived data sets. It's pretty short. It's only about 2 minutes long, but it's pretty illustrative. So let's take a listen here.
All Pro Vacuums, this is Tanya.
Hey, Tanya. I'm having a problem with my vacuum cleaner. It just stopped working on me, and I don't know why it stopped working. It's not old or...
Did you check
anything.
underneath to see if anything is blocking it?
Well, yeah, of course I did. That was one of the first things that I did. This is what happened. This morning, I started vacuuming my son's room, and it's a pretty good sized room. It's about a 12 by 12, and it was working just fine. And then I moved into the living room, which is even the larger room.
How about the belt?
And with,
Did you check to see if it was broken?
no, it wasn't the belt. I checked that too. I'm trying to explain that what I was doing. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to explain to you what happened when the vacuum broke. What I was doing when I was vacuuming the living room, I started noticing that I wasn't picking up stuff so good. So I turned it off and I got down and started looking at it. And the carpet was kind of high, but nothing was clogged underneath. And also I did look at the belt and it seemed okay.
Did the vacuum cleaner work when you first started using it today?
Yes, I just said that. I remember I told you that I started off vacuuming my son's room, and it worked just fine. And when I was vacuuming the living room, that's when it stopped working.
Have you ever checked the bag? They get full and you have to replace them.
You know what? Gosh, let me check the bag. That might be it. Hold on for just a moment. I'm still going to be on the phone, right?
Okay.
Let's see here. All right. Okay, it's completely full. I can't believe my girlfriend didn't change the bag.
Well, it sounds like that fixed your problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
So there's a lot to unpack in that 2 minutes. So I'll hand it back over to Jason to talk a little bit more about it.
So it's funny, when we look at just the data for a call like this, what we would see is this. Number one, the call was resolved, and it was resolved relatively quickly. So our metrics would tell us that this was a great phone call. First contact resolution took about 2 minutes, good investment in time to reach the resolution. However, once we take a closer look at the interaction itself, what we start to uncover are some serious flaws. And I'm sure if I asked anyone, Matt, you're on the bridge today. How are you doing? What do you think this was an exceptional experience?
No, I think the customer was frustrated and they were interrupted multiple times and probably didn't leave feeling really good about the experience, even if it got resolved.
Exactly. And that's what's missing with most of the metrics today. That's why when relationships start to falter, many brands are missing the signals. So here's how our system actually analyzes this call. It starts with an overall summary that tells you exactly what's been going on. Who are we talking to? What are their issues? And then as you scroll a little deeper, what you'll see is 5 recommended actions for improvement that's been drawn out by our AI. Number 1, emphasize the customer frustration, maintain a consistently supportive tone, provide clear step-by-step guidance, acknowledge the customer effort, and cultivate a positive closing. So our system pulls this out. Now, this is all unstructured data. And the beauty of having data is that if you can structure it and then trend it and compare it. So if we were to just look at resolution, we would say this was a great experience. And so it's rated 5 out of 5. However, our systems analysis concludes that this had lots of opportunity for improvement. So it rated it a 3 out of 5. You can see while the agent's technical skills were pretty good, they understood the case, their product knowledge was great, they made it relatively effortless for the customer. There are some issues that abound, and it's all around the softer skills, right? Their level of professionalism and their empathy. And so these are things that are not necessarily taken into account, that our system is able to grab, quantify, and then measure. And as a result, that's why the rating was 3 out of 5. Now, you can also take a deeper look by going through the conversation. And even after the conversation, our system can actually extract the actions and assign the actions to an individual. However, you can also do that manually by clicking on the side, choosing the action classification, providing some details, assign it to an individual on the team, put in the due date, and then submit. And then our system pushes that information out, and then it's assigned. And then it keeps track of progress. So say, for example, a particular training module was recommended. If that training module is completed and passed, that information can then be pulled into our system, and then we can say that, hey, this action was assigned and completed, so that we can have an additional metric to look at to see if we're going from insight to action. Now, with that being said, let's take a look at how this comes together in an overall manner so that we can see how we can apply this, not just for in-the-moment improvements, but for strategic conversations about improving customer experience. So our system has analyzed 1,000 interactions. Some were phone, some were email, some were chat. It produced 200 alerts, and these alerts are the interactions that our system has identified as needing attention. Now, if we look at the overall scoring for these 1,000 interactions, you can see they're relatively good. You can also click on a particular card, and it will trend that data across time to see how this score has been trending. Now, what we really care about are those alerts, the things that we need to action. So we can go in, select alerts, and then what this gives us is just a view of the alerts. Here's our performance scores for those alerts. Here's where we're tracking. You can see easy to understand is an underperforming area, and then we can see the trends across time. If you go down a little bit deeper, you can actually then go and actually click on the specific interaction. And then what that does, it takes you right back to the screen that we just came from. And so you can see how you can take this information and then create that VoC context to it so that you can track not just, for example, the customers that provided feedback. Now you can have a rating for every single interaction. And that allows us to increase the volume of our VoC program and the responses for that. And that, in essence, gives us more information to extract insights and then more confidence to recommend action. And so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen and continue our presentation. So one of the advantages of this system is that it actually helps you in your inter loop and your outer loop process. What does this mean? It actually helps you fix today's issues in almost real time while correcting tomorrow's root causes. Because the caveat we need to add is that all of this can be done in almost real time. So you're not waiting days, perhaps weeks, even months before these issues are surfaced. We're doing them immediately after each interaction to extract the insights and to take recovery action when necessary, but also to look at the trends to see where our opportunities for improvements lie. So, any questions so far?
So Jason, one question I have, so obviously that was really aimed at maybe the use case within the contact center to coach on these calls, both as a trend. But I assume from a business standpoint, if you really looked at CX, then it also rolls up and you can identify which types of calls are trending the worst, et cetera. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we can pull in data from Salesforce and for your CRM systems so that we can classify these interactions further. And then we can display that information so that you can trend what's customer segments, for example, Sean, or even what types of cases related to what types of products are experiencing the greatest influx of issues.
Nice.
Excellent. All right. If there's no questions, I'll just continue. So now we have seen.
I have a question if I could.
Sure, Matt, jump in.
Thank you, Jason. This is awesome. Love the way you're creating actionable analytics off of unstructured data. One question I have is, how does this dovetail with the quality assurance programs that many people may already have, where they've identified, how to audit a portion of calls, and they may be looking for specific things? So how do the metrics that you have compare to the other metrics, and how does it help to not only get all of the calls, but continue to get the right focus on the metrics they care about, the types of behaviors they care about?
Yeah, that's a great point, Matt. So we're called Bespoke for exactly that reason. We can identify the particular elements that your brand is really focused on, especially in the soft skills element. Because hey, having knowledge about a product is very important, right? But there are these small, softer skill sets that really make the difference between a interaction that I would consider a commoditized interaction versus one that nurtures and builds a relationship. And it's the soft skills that do it. And we can work with teams within an organization to identify how to measure those specific elements that they care most about and integrate that measurement system into this solution in order to highlight and extract those interactions that are either meeting or exceeding those goals or actually underperforming. And then what that does, it actually allows coaches and people that are part of the quality assurance system to really focus more on the coaching element and less on the, let me try to figure out what's wrong, or let me try to align scores, right? So it really changes the conversation in the quality assurance space to one of actionable output as opposed to uncovering an opportunity. And so, Matt, that's how I would say that our system integrates or plugs in to the quality assurance system that a organization may have in place.
That's awesome.
Right. So let's jump in a little further now. You have seen how to acquire more feedback, right? And ingest that into your VoC program. But let's face it, declining response rates means each customer feedback is more important than it's ever been before. And so how do we make the most of the feedback we're currently capturing? This is where we need to make the most of every feedback opportunity. And we do this by making each second we spend with the customer collecting feedback count maximally. So let's talk a little bit about this. Our voice AI-powered survey feedback solution blends the survey precision of an interview conversation with the details that you would want from a quantitative survey. So what are we talking about? Mixed method research. Remember back in the day, it was all the rage. Hey, I can ask some quantitative questions. Hey, how do you feel on a scale of 1 to 5? And then after I do that quantitative research, I'm going to go out and conduct some focus groups to validate my findings, or vice versa. We can now, because of AI, do this all in one shot at scale. So what do? Instead of sending a customer a survey that they can fill out by clicking a set of buttons, we can actually engage them in a conversation about their experience. And that allows us to capture richer details, not only what they're saying, but the emotion and context behind what they're saying as well. And being able to analyze those two pieces provides us much richer data. So how does this work? It works by asking the what questions, following up with the why questions, plus capturing deeper emotional signals such as the tone changes that take place when different questions are asked or responded to, the pauses in terms of how customers are answering the questions, and the points of inflection. We measure all of these things while we're collecting what and why to create a richer resource of data from which to extract insights from. And what this allows us is deeper customer knowledge from every single response. This means making the data more powerful, but spending the same amount of time for the respondent. So let's take a look at this in action again.
All right, so back to me, guys. I'm going to share my screen one more time. And what I'm about to demo is how a simple automated short form interview using our voice agent might go. I will be playing the role of interviewee in this scenario for an onboarding feedback survey, in this case for AWS, actually. And you'll be able to see that our system can handle both open-ended qualitative questions and quantitative rank-based questions, and can even conversationally probe further if it deems it necessary, even when the topic is relatively sophisticated. And you'll see that it also transcribes this interview for system ingestion. So give me one moment here, make sure the sound is being shared as well. Let's get started. Just hide this, there we go.
I'm thrilled to have you here today. We're on a mission to learn about your experiences, feelings, and expectations as an AWS customer. Just like a good mystery, there are no right or wrong answers. Our aim is to gather insights so we can spot both the shining successes and the areas needing a bit of polish. Rest assured, this chat is completely confidential and will just take around 5 minutes. How does that sound to you?
And the personality of the AI can also be tuned, the voice, etc. That sounds great. Let's get started.
Fantastic. Could you start by describing your role and how you work with AWS?
So I am a software engineer. I work with AWS daily using EC2 instances and DynamoDB for databases and microservice deployments.
That's great to hear. It sounds like you have a solid grasp on various AWS services in your day-to-day work. Now, how would you describe the value that AWS provides your organization?
So AWS allows us to offload a lot of the cognitive stress of managing our infrastructure. The elasticity of EC2 is great for managing the traffic on our software, saves us a lot of time.
That's a really insightful perspective. It sounds like AWS really enhances your efficiency and gives you peace of mind about managing infrastructure. Do you feel you've covered everything you wanted to say about the value AWS brings, or is there more you'd like to elaborate on?
Well, the account team was very good, actually. The account team helped us quite a bit.
It's wonderful to hear that the account team has been supportive. Having a good team can make a world of difference. Now, let's move on to the next question. Looking back, how would you describe your experience onboarding AWS?
It was fine.
Fine is a good place to start, but I'm curious, was there anything in particular during the onboarding process that stood out to you, either positively or negatively?
Now that you mention it, we did figure it out in the end, but getting there was a little bit of a learning curve when, we were learning about databases, the documentation was in one place when we were learning about how to orchestrate the microservices, documentation was somewhere else. So there isn't a streamlined learning path. We had to piece stuff together from many places.
Thank you for sharing that experience. It sounds like the fragmented documentation made your onboarding a bit more challenging than it could have been. It's always nice when everything is neatly organized, isn't it? Now, let's move on to the next question. On a scale of 1 to 5, can you tell me how satisfied you are with AWS?
I'll go with a 4.
A 4 is a solid score. Can you share what factors led you to that rating? What aspects do you feel could be improved?
Well, the technology is very solid and dependable, obviously, powers a lot of the internet. But like I said, the documentation can be a lot to untangle. And so that slowed us down a lot, even though the account team was pretty competent, actually, even though the documentation failed us.
It sounds like you're striking a balance between high quality technology and some documentation challenges. It's great that the account team was there to help, but I can see how the documentation issues could be a significant speed bump. Have you mentioned everything you'd like to about your satisfaction with AWS, or is there more you'd like to add?
I think that's it. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your insights. Thanks again for your time and for sharing your perspective. It's been very helpful, and we truly appreciate your input and the opportunity to learn from your experience. Have a fantastic day.
It's a very, very polite bot. So I'm going to end call now, and hopefully that gives you a little bit of a vertical slice of our offerings.
So from there, what you can see is that this is a very straightforward conversation back and forth, but it's actually filled with nuance. And our system is created to detect that nuance. So if you take a look at a reporting solution, what it does, it breaks down this conversation. So it starts at the very top by giving you some overview about what this project is all about and who this respondent was. Then you have a key summary and findings of the main things that were pulled out of the conversation and some of the key signals or topics that sort of were brought to the surface during the conversation. And this gets really cool. Our signal intelligence then provides a synopsis of what people were saying and what they were talking about, what they focused on. And then from there, we turn all that data that's unstructured into structured. So overall, based on this interview, AWS is rated as a 4 out of 5. Okay. When we talk about the value AWS provides, our system gave that a 4 out of 5. But then we have the sense data, the emotional context behind that score. You can see it was relatively neutral. And so our overall score, while taking these two into consideration, our AI provides a score of 4 out of 5. Now, when we look at the onboarding experience, the performance score was 3. However, the sense data picked up on the negative connotation and just adjusted that score down slightly so that it's a 2 out of 5 as opposed to the 3 out of 5 the customer actually gave. Now, for the rest of the attributes, the ratings were relatively positive, and you can see that as we go down all the way to the bottom. And so by tabulating up these scores, it allows us to get to that overall score number. Now, say, for example, you wanted to actually dig deeper and go into the actual conversation. You can actually view the entire conversation, question by question, answer by answer. Now, this really starts to shine when you can take this information and look at it across 100 different interviews, for example, right? You can see the breakdown in terms of the performance. So, for example, you'll see the overall performance score, and then the top two box scores to the right. They're highlighted, then color coded, so that you can see where the performance is strong and where the performance needs to be improved. You can see clearly highlighted the onboarding experience as being an opportunity for improving, not just amongst that one respondent, but amongst the high percentage of customers that were spoken to. But that's just the beginning. That's what a typical survey would give you. This is where bringing in AI and capturing signals really starts to shine. So as we look at the signal analysis, we look at the various topics within the conversation, and then we rate them based on tone, inflection, depth of information, positive and negative, word choices, etc. And you can see the onboarding experience was relatively negative, cost you know what I mean, learning curve and service breadth, HIPAA, and all these other things were when they came up in topics of conversation, they were mentioned in a rather neutral tone. When it came to technical reliability and account management, they tend to have a more positive association in terms of not just the words, but the tone, inflection, etc. And then when it looked at the loyalty, it was neutral again. So this is the additional insights or data that you can get from capturing that feedback and analyzing it through our system. And then from there, you can actually dig in interview by interview, and that will take us right back to the screen that we started, which gives you that overall performance at the individual interview level. And so this is a way of making maximum use of the information that you're acquiring from that customer in that short interview process, where that customer has agreed to committing a few moments to providing you with feedback. So I'm going to share my screen again. So once that is done, what do you have? You have higher quality data that results in higher confidence. And that confidence is so important because that's what drives action. People are much more enthusiastic to act, whether they are employees or your customers, when they are confident of the results. Any questions about this approach?
Well, Jason, I'll just say, I mean, to me, this is game changer for all of us in CX. I mean, the opportunity now to go deeper into conversation, because I think I know, in the surveys, running those, maybe 30% give you feedback, in the comment section. About half of them are worthless. It's, no good. And so being able to get back to conversations with customers like we used to do, and in research and focus groups, but do it at scale. I mean, again, it's game changer to me. I think it's an incredible opportunity, and I really love how this fits then with the overall signals that you can do, including legacy surveys, and putting all of that into kind of this insights engine. It's really awesome.
Thank you, Sean. And that was our goal behind this, is to look at where technology has the opportunity to raise our game, to help CXers, right? Especially those that are responsible for creating that data that's going to drive action. How can we help fill the gap, drive higher levels of confidence amongst our employees, management, and leadership to be able to take action to improve our customer relationships, make those investments that we know need to be made, but we may not have had the data to support our intuition before. Now, this allows us to be able to have the conversation, sit at the table, have the conversation, defend our point of view, not with just anecdotal evidence, but actual hard data. Any other questions, thoughts?
I have a question if there's no one else.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can totally see how this is a great build on the call center opportunities that we were talking about with QA before.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you've seen this work with like other frontline experiences like sales teams or customer success teams or product teams that do collaboration with customers. If they don't yet have a recording tool like a dial pad or records ingested from other solutions, do you provide that recording also, or do they have to bring that, record to the table already recorded? And where do you see the opportunity outside call center?
Yeah, absolutely. So the beauty of things like Twilio and even digital interactions is that you have that footprint, you have that information. And so we can provide that environment that records conversations, for example, and ask those questions and get that feedback back from them. We can bring the whole thing to the table, the end-to-end solution. From beginning, I want to do this, right to the very end, which is here's what the data is telling us. Here's the actions you should be promoting. These are the things that you should be saying. For every environment, there's a different set of ways to approach, but all of these things can be completely customized to support your individual needs. Because here's the thing with technology today. Buying the black box doesn't work. We've seen this. We've seen this over and over again. Hey, you're going to buy the black box. We're going to tell you how to do it. You're going to do it exactly how we want it to do. We want you to do it. That doesn't work because many companies now have a combination of systems. They have their internal homegrown systems. They have external systems. They may not even have a system, but they need that information to be collected and then be extracted and then moved across different environments. And at Bespoke, our job is not just to collect this, but to make it available to everyone, to democratize it. So we've really felt from day one, we had to build these solutions from the ground up and not buy them in a black box so that we can customize the solution for every type of implementation.
Yeah, I can totally see how, and it's in your name, Bespoke, and you mentioned it, that the opportunity to meet the customer where they are, the client where they are, and put a program in place that actually thinks about the emotions they care about, the behaviors they care about, the metrics they care about. You're providing a way to reduce the cost and complexity of setting that up that doesn't require as expensive a consulting implementation, if any. And Journey Spark as an example, we focus on the behavior and the change management because we think the technology solution should be much more affordable and you shouldn't put all your money into that. And that what the solutions like you provide are really changing the game for what does it take to get the outcome you need without a massive technology implementation.
Yeah, and Matt, to take that one step further, I think companies are starting to realize that these technologies used to only be available for enterprise level companies. And what the game changer of a lot of this technology, it's opening the door to mid-sized companies and even smaller companies to be able to behave like enterprise companies from a technology perspective and to have the tools and technologies available to them that they may have been shut out from before because of it was just cost prohibitive. And so this, for us, AI represents an evolution. And the evolution is not necessarily the technology itself, but the affordability of that technology and the ability of small to mid-sized companies to compete head on with their larger counterparts.
You got a question, Colin Weigel. I'm with CX strategist at American Ag Credit, so in the farm credit system. I love this technology, and I think it feels very inevitable at some level. I love your approach of capturing every interaction. I wonder what your take is on, and/or if you have any solutions in this space. If I think of a customer coming and interacting, and I capture all that data and detail and assess it and analyze it, and but I don't want to think of the customers as just a flowing river of customers always going by, never to be seen again. Like, talk about maybe longitudinal tracking for, like, I have a bay of customers, and the way different customers come, that same customer repeatedly, interacts with us, and how do you weave this together into to providing a more strategic take on that next interaction, or the third or the fifth interaction with the same customer?
It's funny. That we can do a whole program on that particular solution, because we actually do have that. And we started building that in 2008, believe it or not, because here was the challenge we were faced with, okay? Most companies think of each interaction as being unique and one. They don't think of it as being part of a journey, right? So even in the most simplistic of manners, let's take customer support, for example, okay? A person starts on the web most often, or on a mobile app, right? They can't get the information that they're seeking. They maybe go to automated chat, right? They play around in automated chat for a few minutes, right? And then they decide this is not going to answer my question either. So then they eventually get to the phone, right? Then when they get to the phone treats them, right, as a new customer. They don't treat them as a customer that has actually interacted across 2 channels already. And we have a system that actually connects those parts of the journey together and facilitates a more seamless transition from digital to interactive, but not for the purpose of just making it easy for the customer, but for actually connecting it together. And so what we can do then, once we have that customer and they have called, we can then now turn that customer from an anonymous customer into a known customer, and then go backwards to fill in that information, and also go forward to continue to trace them, right? At an anonymous level, if we'd like, and using simply an ID. So we're not transferring information, PII information across the systems, because for banks especially, that's a concern. So at the moment, at these pivotal moments where you go to login is one. Number 2 is if you go to chat, they usually ask your name, right? And you capture that information. Or when you get to the phone, now we have that information and we have the connective tissue. And at that moment, we can then turn that entire journey from anonymous into known, and then track them moving forward future. And so we have a solution that does that. And it all starts from the web or your mobile app, believe it or not, because we know today, people, 90%, I think it was 90% people start their search digitally, right? And so you got to start there and start the tracking there. You don't have to have them known there, but you have to have them individually identified. Now, the second piece is that taking it for multiple interactions then is simply the same thing. They may come the first time for support for a product they purchased, 2 months ago, or a question they have about savings and loans, and then you can keep them in the loop by then readdressing that the second time they come for, say, opening an account, a savings account. And so you just need that one spot where you touch, where you can transfer them from unknown to known, and then boom, you can create that singular journey and then display that. And the displaying part of that is what's really fun, because you're displaying it not for a one point in time. You're actually displaying it across the entire lifetime of that customer. And that's a more complex piece of data to put together. But when we put it together, you can see it makes intuitive sense and it's easy to follow.
So Jason,
Yeah.
yeah, I
No,
was
no.
just gonna say we're kind of running out on time here a little bit for our hour together, and I know people probably have more questions for you, want maybe learn a little bit more about this, and I think you described it, from a bespoke development perspective, you kind of connect everything. You're agnostic to the source and bringing that together. But how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can get a hold of us. Just go with bespokecsi.com. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. After this call, we're going to send you an email and just give you a link to one of our voice AI surveys, just for you to play around with it, just to get a sense of the technology, see how it works, so you guys can experiment with it and see. And you can follow up with any questions, and we'd be happy to continue the conversation.
Awesome. Well, Jason, thank you for sharing. Like I said, this is an incredible time for CX. As rough as things may seem sometimes to those of us in the business, with still being layoffs and things like that, it's an incredible time, for us, because the capabilities we've always dreamed of having are real, and they're now affordable. As well, so there's so much opportunity. So as we close today, I definitely recommend reach out to Jason and team at Bespoke CSI. And join us at one of our future events as well. So cxontherocks.com to join in, free to join. We have sessions like this that are webinars, but we also focus a lot on just conversation. Let's talk about what's going on in your business and with your organization, or even in your career. And let's talk about how to, help you and you help each other through that process as well. Because CX on the Rocks is really about helping us all navigate this together, and do so in a way that we're all better off for it as well. So hope to see you on future events as well. And Jason and team, thank you so much for sharing some awesome content with us today. And I know people will be reaching out to learn more. So with that, we'll close down. Thank you so much for coming today, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.